to 3 and Out on TV Piedmont Channel 60. I'm your host, Brian Carter, alongside my new and improved co-host, Ryan Orlovsky. This is the new era of 3 and Out. Set looks nicer, co-host knows his stuff. We just took out the trash, so to speak. Get your popcorn ready because you're watching 3 and Out. What do we have for them today, rookie?
Well, on the opening tip, we'll debate on Greg Oden. We'll answer your emails on the 7th inning stretch. And on third down, we'll both give our top 3 sports cities. Plus, we'll have a special guest for a few brief moments. As always, if you have questions, comments, or topic suggestions, feel free to email us at 3andoutsports@gmail.com. All emailers receive a 3 and Out pen, which provides 2.5 miles of ink.
We need to test that, by the way. It's been 16 months since he was picked number 1 overall, and he finally made his debut in the NBA. I'm talking about Greg Oden, the man whom I said would be a lesser choice than going with Kevin Durant nearly 2 years ago on 3 and Out. Well, after this long wait, Oden lasted only 2.5 minutes in his first game with the Blazers after suffering a sprained right foot. Good news is it's only a 2 to 4 week sideliner, which he's already come back from. However, this begs the question, can Oden ever shake the injury bug and be the player he's supposed to be? Ryan, is Oden the real deal or is he a bust?
Well, it's plain to see that to this point, Greg Oden has been a bust for the Blazers. But there's a lot of people in the NBA like Kobe Bryant, and you got Jason Richardson who come back from these injuries, and why can't Greg Oden be one of those guys? He was the number 1 pick in the draft, like you said, 16 months ago, so we can't really call him out on this yet. Some people have a rough week. Greg Oden's one of those guys that's kind of had a rough year. But some people don't know this. In high school, Greg Oden actually had a very bad wrist injury. He got surgery on it, and then we saw what happened when he went to Ohio State, recording 15.5 points per game and also 10 rebounds.
Well, I mean, that's not so impressive. You're basically admitting that he's injury prone, so he's so much like a bust already. You got to ask the question, is this man worth the wait? No. We haven't seen him do anything yet but warm up a bench and grow a beard in one day.
And get 5 rebounds.
And get 5 rebounds in 2.5 minutes. Pleasure delayed has turned into pleasure denied, if you know what I mean. This guy has not been worth the wait. Orlovsky, I agree that this guy, when healthy, makes the Blazers a more dynamic team and even better, obviously. But he's not like David Robinson, who was in the Navy for 2 years and then came over to the Spurs back in 1989, turned a team that was 21-61 into a team that was the next year, I believe, 56-26, where they lost in the second round of the playoffs. So you can't bring a water gun into a gunfight here. Tell me why you think Oden is a dynamic player a la Shaquille O'Neal.
He's a dynamic player. He hasn't really proved himself in the NBA yet because, I mean, he's really only played 1 game. But if you look all the way back to high school, 2 years in a row, Gatorade Player of the Year, and he led Ohio State to that record they had 2 years ago and also to the Final Four. So, I mean, you can't say that this guy is a bust. You really can't say it yet. It's too early to tell.
You're right. I mean, it might be a little bit too early, but let's just look. This guy needs to get on the left track, and the reason I say he needs to get on the left track instead of saying get on the right track is because he's got right side issues. Every injury he's had has been on the right side of his body. We know that this knee injury he suffered from and ended his year last year before it ever began, and he had the microfracture surgery. The guy's 285 pounds, 7 foot tall, allegedly has his right leg longer than his left. Is this the source of his problems? I don't know. A lot of people, analysts, believe that when they see him running down the court, that it appears that he's really like a 35-year-old stuck in a 21-year-old body. This guy can't stay healthy.
But, I mean, that is the case for a lot of NBA players. I mean, you play an 82-game season, so, I mean, stuff happens.
Stuff happens, Orlovsky, but, man, you talk about 82 games, the guy can't even get through 30. Look at how he did at Ohio State. He missed part of his senior year in high school. By the way, you mentioned his high school. I got some stats for you here. Only 14 points per game in high school, and he was a 7-footer. There's not many 7-footers in high school.
But there's a reason why he's Player of the Year 2 years in a row in high school. There's a reason for all this.
But that's not dynamic. I mean, to me, that's a bust. You got a guy that's 7 foot tall, and there's not that many in high school. Anyways, he's never going to be a 20-point scorer.
But you
he
can't.
Only average, what was it, 15.7 at Ohio State.
15.5, but you still.
Exactly. 15.5, that even makes your case.
But you can't call a number 1 pick in the NBA a bust, especially when you've only seen him play 1 game.
But does this not ring bells? You know this was coming up. Sam Bowie, 1984, the Trailblazers pick him over who? Michael Jordan. You know, I mean, this seems like Kevin Durant getting picked. You know, Kevin Durant was number 2, number 1, obviously Greg Oden. Not to say that Durant's going to be the next MJ, but it sort of looks that way when you look at Sam Bowie, whose career was cut short with injuries, and he was second to Michael Jordan. or first to Michael Jordan. And then you got the same thing here with Oden. He needs to get his mind right, because even though he was going through the injuries last year, instead of working on getting healthy and getting back to his team, he actually got busted by the team for got caught playing some pickup games on the street.
Well, like you said earlier, the sprained foot, 2 to 4 weeks. We'll get to see what happens here very shortly. We'll get to see if he's the real deal.
But, he looks a little sluggish. You look in the preseason, he played in 4 games, averaged only, I believe it was like 11 points per game.
Mm-hmm.
And they said that he looked a little sluggish. He looked awkward down in the low post. His head coach, McMillan, has had to yell at him numerous times to shoot the ball, because he even has shown that he's not willing to lead the team. He's not willing to take those shots late in games. We've seen that with LeBron James, who's, in the last couple of years come into his own. But before that, he was afraid to take that shot, to seal the deal. And Greg Oden has said he's not ready to lead a team. He doesn't want to lead a team. So,
well, you can't lead a team scoring the way he's been scoring, playing the way he hasn't even been
he's
playing.
Not playing
so,
at all.
Yeah. Exactly.
So how can you not call this guy a bust? He's missed an entire year already. He can't make it through a 30-game schedule in college. He can't do anything in high school. I mean, twice Player of the Year, that's great, but 14 points per game as a 7-footer doesn't tell me much. In my high school alone, we had 3 guys at one time that had at least 20 points a game.
What's the competition like at your high school?
It's not the same, I'll give you that. But, it's not fair. I can see where Oden, as opposed to saying he's a bust, I do think it is kind of too early, but I'm going to have to still side with the fact that, he's poised to be the next Shaquille O'Neal. He's poised to be the next Tim Duncan. And, in fact, he's neither one of those. The only guy we can actually draw, a parallel to him is Sam Bowie, for being this expectations are high, and then he's not there to, and is it his fault? No, it's not his fault, because he doesn't overhype himself. He's just a 7-footer. He has a Jesus Christ beard. The guy goes out there and does his thing, but he's not going to be what everyone thinks he's going to be. So you have to kind of think that he's going to be a bust.
It's too early to tell. That's all I'm saying. It's too early to tell. So.
What do you think his role is going to be on this team then?
At this point, we can't really say anything about it, because we've seen him play in the preseason, but I really believe that his preseason performance, he's just the guy's just getting back into the groove of things. You take that much time off, it's common to be that rusty. So.
I guess, man, but the only thing I see to this guy is that he has a potential to get better, but he's got to get healthy first, and I just don't know if he's ever going to shake that injury bug. He does look old. Could he actually be older than he says? We don't know that kind of thing.
But
before we end this segment, we got to hurry up. We got one more thing we have to do. We're going to give away a game ball now at the end of each segment. At the end of every first segment, I'm going to give my game ball to this Minnesota high school team who scored 2 touchdowns within the last 5 seconds of the game to send it into OT, baby, and they won.
I got to give mine to Darren Evans from Virginia Tech, 253 yards against the 23rd ranked Maryland Terrapins, and you know what? He did it all in front of his 2-year-old son.
Well, Orlovsky and Oden, cancel my subscription. I'm tired of your issues. Okay. When we come back, we're going to check our email and answer your questions during the 7th inning stretch. You're watching 3 and Out.